Look, I know what you're thinking. You think you're pretty smart. You've read a few books. You can solve a quadratic equation. Maybe you even argue about geopolitics at dinner parties. But here's the cold, hard truth. You are still a hopeless moron. Don't get defensive. This isn't an insult. It's science. Take this guy, Isaac Newton, one of the greatest minds in human history, the father of calculus, the man who discovered gravity. He could calculate the orbits of planets, but he couldn't calculate the depth of human greed. In 1720, he lost the modern equivalent of millions of dollars in the South Sea bubble. His famous quote, "I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people." Translation, I have a 200 IQ, but when it comes to the stock market, I have the brain of a goldfish. Why? Why do the people who invent atomic bombs, lead multinational corporations, and crack the genetic code act like drunk 5-year-olds in real life? Today, we're peeling back the high IQ mask to see the broken machinery underneath. Welcome to the Smart Person's Guide to Being Stupid. First, we need to kill a myth that the education system has been feeding you for a century. Intelligence, IQ, and rationality, RQ, are not the same thing. Psychologist Keith Stanovich coined a term for this, Dysrationalia. Think of IQ as your computer's CPU processing power, and rationality as your operating system. You can have the fastest processor on the planet, but if your OS is full of bugs and running Windows 95, you're still going to crash. What does an IQ test measure? Logic puzzles, spatial awareness, vocabulary. It proves you're a good student. But in the real world, nobody gives you multiple choice options. Life asks, who should you marry? When should you sell that crappy crypto? And should you really send that 800-word "I miss you" text to your ex at 3 a.m.? Research shows the correlation between IQ and rationality is surprisingly thin. High IQ lets you run faster through a complex maze. But if you're running in the wrong direction, say off a cliff, your high IQ just ensures you die faster than everyone else. Here's the scarier part. Smart people don't just make mistakes. They make better mistakes. They are world-class at lying to themselves. When a normal person messes up, they might admit they were wrong. But a smart person? No. They use their massive processing power to build a perfect logical fortress around their stupidity. In psychology, we call this motivated reasoning. The higher your IQ, the better you are at finding evidence to prove that I'm right. You aren't looking for the truth. You're looking for ammunition for your ego. Have you ever seen a PhD expert talk complete nonsense about a field they know nothing about? They sound incredibly logical. Their arguments are airtight, but your gut tells you they're full of it. That's my side bias. Smart people fall into this trap more often because they're so good at building logical cages. They lock themselves inside, throw away the key, and then use their intelligence to explain why the cage is actually a palace. They don't just have biases, they have the "I'm too smart to have biases" bias. It's a cognitive inception of stupidity. Another classic genius trap? The curse of knowledge. Once you know something, it becomes impossible to remember what it felt like not to know it. It's like learning to ride a bike once you've got it. You can't fathom why anyone else is struggling to stay upright. This is why top-tier engineers design products that are a total nightmare to use. They think a remote with 50 buttons is logical and intuitive, while your grandma thinks it looks like the control panel of a nuclear silo. Smart people love overcomplicating things. Simple solutions feel beneath them. They'd rather spend $100,000 developing a space pen that writes in zero gravity than do what the Soviets did and just bring a pencil. Yeah, I know it's a myth, but you get the point. There's a hilarious concept in psychology called Solomon's paradox. King Solomon was famous for his wisdom. People traveled from all over the world to hear his advice. He was the ultimate life coach. But his own private life? A total dumpster fire. He was a glutton, a spendthrift, and eventually, his bad decisions wrecked his entire kingdom. Why? Because when you think about other people's problems, you're cool, detached, and rational. But when you think about your problems, your emotional brain, the limbic system, kicks the rationality out of the driver's seat. This is the tragedy of the smart person. They have the processing power to solve the world's problems, but not the self-control to solve their own. You can plan a 10-year corporate strategy, but you can't stop yourself from eating that third slice of chocolate cake. Irony is a cruel mistress. All right, enough roasting. Let's talk survival. If you don't want to crash your life in a high IQ train wreck, you need 3 tools. First, intellectual humility. Admit that your IQ is just a tiny candle in a very dark, very large universe. Real intelligence is knowing when to shut up. Second, the pre-mortem. Before you make a life-changing decision, imagine it's 6 months later and you've failed miserably. You're broke and embarrassed. Now, work backward. How did you die? This forces you out of your "I'm a genius" hallucination. Finally, treat yourself like a stranger. Next time you're about to do something questionable, ask yourself, if the biggest idiot I know decided to do this, what would I tell them? If your answer is, that guy's a moron, then congratulations, you just saved yourself. The truth is, IQ is what you're born with, but wisdom is what you choose. You can keep being a high IQ idiot, jerking yourself off in a maze of your own logic. Or you can admit your limitations and start looking at the world like a real wise person. After all, the people who drown in the shallow end are usually the ones who thought they could fly over the ocean. If this video made you feel a little offended, good, it means your brain is still working. Like, subscribe, and send this to that one friend who thinks they're the smartest person in the room. See you next time. Try not to do anything stupid.